BP freaking out about North Korea and Russia and Ukraine? You mean breaking points? What are they on about?
All right, let's go to Russia and North Korea. This is something...
I would rather not go to Russia or North Korea. I've heard they have I don't know, let's say sort of non-committal attitudes towards human rights.
Again, been tracking very closely, and one in which the level of lying from the mainstream media is just out-shocking to us. You know, really. Let's put this up there on the screen. So President Putin recently visited North Korea, and it was only the second visit of his entire presidency. And in this visit, he's, you know, heralded as a god. They roll out all the singing children for him and the stadiums and all of the old school propaganda that we know and love. But perhaps most importantly was this, is that Russia and North Korea have now signed a partnership deal that will be the strongest since the Cold War. The details of the deal are not 100% clear, but they
shouldn't the immediate instinct of any seasoned veteran of geopolitical analysis be that it's a sign of desperation to cultivate such a direct relationship with a pariah state like North Korea? Like, do you guys remember how a decade ago Russia was like a much you know, they were feared for having a large and powerful military. They were like spreading money and influence all around the globe. They were like compared to China in terms of their potential economic and political influence. And now they're getting like personal visits from Putin on alliance with North Korea. It's like, damn, I don't know. Like, to draw the analogy down, it just feels to me like a person in high school has had a fall from grace, and then you see them start like really publicly indicating friendship with a loser kid nobody likes. You know? I don't know if this is necessarily a strong indicator of their doing well.
Will pledge mutual aid if either country faces aggression, and most importantly, it locks down a huge, like, a supply of ammunition from North Korea. North Korea has
North Korea has already been providing ammunition for, God, like over a year now? Has it been as much as a year? It's been a while. It's been a while.
The largest stockpiles of the Soviet-style ammunition and production facilities of any country in the world. North Korea now is supplying a lot of these weapons and has a huge stockpile, not just of Soviet-style weapons, chemical weapons, all kinds of really nasty stuff, the most basics of artillery and others, to Russia for the Russian war machine in Ukraine. The important thing behind this is that you would presume that this was inevitable. It was not inevitable. It is directly a product of Joe Biden.
Is it? Is that crazy? It's just like everything else in the world that Russia does. It's actually because of us. That's crazy. I mean, the official declaration of alliance isn't inevitable, or wasn't inevitable, in the sense that it didn't have to get this pathetic, but like effectively their allegiance was already established. I don't really know what meaningfully has changed, right? They were already supplying the ammunition. And the promise of mutual defense is completely impotent because, like, no, North Korea isn't going to send its entire army over to the Donbass, and North and South Korea are still at war with each other, legally speaking. Is Russia going to like invade across the DMZ? What are you talking about? DPRK ammo is extremely unreliable if reports from Ukraine are to be believed. Yeah, because it's old as f. It's like 60 or 70 years old in a lot of cases.
Abandoning the Trump policy of engagement with Pyongyang. Donald Trump shocked the world, and I'll never forget it. It's still one of the best things he ever did.
He didn't do any, dude. Trump didn't, nothing came of that. Trump shaking hands with Kim did literally nothing. It didn't change North Korea's behavior in the slightest. It was a photo op that accomplished nothing. There was no strategy there.
He just went to Singapore and sat across from Kim, shook his hand. You know what happened? We stopped seeing missile tests. We stopped seeing a lot of the aggression. Now,
no, we did. No, no correlation. Zero correlation. No, absolutely not. The behavior from North Korea has been consistent for a very long time, like just completely invented. You seriously think that having like the handshake, like sitting across the table from President Trump, a guy so involved in interventionism that he murked Soleimani, that was enough to single-handedly stop half a century of increasing aggression from North Korea? Come on, dude. When Trump nuts, but Saagar still gulping.
At first, people were very skeptical, the South Koreans and others, but the tensions were actually beginning to come down. Biden comes back into office, immediately reverts back to the Obama policy of non-engagement, where we tell the North...
This is completely nonsense. Like, Trump had some photo ops, he crossed the DMZ and shook hands. There was no a change in official policy. Like, this is completely made up. The tensions were still there.
Koreans, nothing, we will not give you anything as long as you have nuclear weapons. Now, do you know anybody on Earth?
Wait, was Trump giving the North Korean regime stuff despite them having nuclear weapons? What are you talking about? What? With the implication to this, like Trump was trading freely with North Korea? What?
A hermit kingdom dictator with nukes who's just going to give them up? Why would you? And apparently from the people I've spoken to who sat across from the North Koreans, what do they always talk about? Gaddafi.
By the way, Trump sucking off of North Korea cratered Japanese and South Korean support for USA to like 20% from a previous 70-90 support. Yeah, like it was insanely unpopular with our allies in the region because it just seemed like Trump was jerking off Kim for no reason. Trump shaking hands with Kim was only good for Kim. America didn't benefit from it in any way. We got nothing from it, but Kim got the legitimacy of sitting across the table from the so-called leader of the free world, you know? It bolstered him significantly.
They're like, listen, Gaddafi gave up his stuff. You guys invaded Iraq. And then, you know, he was sodomized on live television after you guys bombed his country and you took him out. If you think that we're going to take your word for it, we do not believe you. These nukes are the only things that keep us in power. So we are...
Is he pretending that Trump was like a principled non-interventionist or something? Like Kim Jong-un was like, oh, Biden, we would never deal with you because you killed Gaddafi. However, Trump, the guy who killed Soleimani, is nonsensical. Just completely, you know, just rewrite history however is necessary to jerk off Trump, whatever.
Basically locked in an existential battle with the North Koreans where they want to survive. That's all they want. They want the corrupt Kim regime to survive.
What? That's what that's all the North Korean people... What? I don't even understand this framing, man. I don't even get it. What?
For some stupid reason, just cling to this denuclearization policy. And in exchange, they say, fine, you know, we need money. So what are we going to do? We're going to the Russians. The Russians are going to pay us. Yeah. And so now we have this terrible...
Yeah, North Korean tests raise concern and pressure for Trump diplomacy. Also, Kim has his shit on here, as always. Thank you. He seems to know it, too. Look at how happy he is. Back at the end of 2019... Top military official said North Korea could launch a long-range missile, part of its promised Christmas gift to the U.S., a move that could ratchet up pressure on President Donald Trump. The idea that, like, Trump shook hands with Kim and the pressure went down is literally just gaslighting. What the f*** are you talking about? The 3 meetings between Kim and Trump, including Trump's historic stroll into North Korea with Kim in June, failed to yield discernible progress towards denuclearization, and the last attempt at working level talks fell apart in October during a meeting in Stockholm, Sweden. Like, nothing happened.
A new, like, actual alliance, which, let's say you care about Ukraine, then the policy of isolation towards North Korea has been a disaster. You know, same with respect to...
If only Biden had shook hands with Kim, then North Korea wouldn't have provided arms to Russia because North Korea needed money, but only under Biden because Trump traded with North Korea? Does everyone understand how, like, contradictory this is? I feel like this is bad even for Saagar. Like, I know that you have to rewrite history to make Trump seem good, but, like, he is implying that Donald Trump ended tensions between South and North Korea, and also that Trump ended the economic isolation period of North Korea? Like he ended Juche theory or something?
To China. The Chinese apparently they're not like selling the Russians weapons directly, but they're facilitating the transactions. Obviously, the Kim regime is a client state of the Chinese, and they're actively encouraging this. And now what happens? The European Union and the United States is trying to slap China with sanctions over our policy vis-a-vis Ukraine. It's like the whole world is all revolving around Ukraine as if it's the most important thing, but it's...
That is how wars work? Like, yes, participants in either side of a conflict are going to, like, throw economic sanctions at each other, and we have more power to do that because we basically run the global economy. It's not as though China doesn't have protectionist anti-American economic practices. That's fine, you know? It's pretty normal. It's not that Ukraine is the most important thing. It's just, like, a consideration.
Evolving a new axis against us, which make fun of North Korea all you want. Ask the people in Seoul who actually have to grapple with the threat. It's terrifying. They will openly say, they're like, look, the North Koreans can destroy our most...
Is he implying that people in Seoul liked what Trump did?
Valuable city in 45 minutes. They could shell us. They've got the world's most powerful chemical weapons. They have all these stockpiles.
No, they don't. What? Dude, this is crazy, man. The world's most powerful chemical weapons? Where are you getting this from? By the way, Only 16% of South Koreans, a very conservative country, want Trump to be reelected, contrasted with 59% who prefer Biden.
Ammunition. They're one of the world's largest standing armies. You can laugh at
Are you,
them.
dude? Holy, dude. I guess now that like Russia's military has been proven to be ineffective, people like Saagar have to go, actually, North Korea is the real power in the world, you know? North Korea is the the real threat to US hegemony. What are you talking about, man? Holy shit. The people of South Korea were angry that Trump did the shit that he did because all it did was legitimize Kim Jong-un with no benefit at all. There was no decrease in tension. This is pretty bad for him, man. Do you remember that Saddam in 91 had one of the world's largest armies? Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact.
All you want, but don't underestimate both their military capability in Korea, but they can launch a missile and wipe Los Angeles off the map if they want to.
Oh my God!
So this is something that we have directly facilitated.
Did you get paid for this, dude? No, they can't. They don't have the megatonnage to wipe out a mega city. And in addition to the fact that we have dubious claims to their ICBM capabilities, are you crazy? Even if they could, even if they were able to, even if all of this was taken for granted, which I severely doubt, the world would hold its hands up like this as every Western allied nation tag team North Korea until there was nothing left of it but a crater 2 miles deep. Just any shit, man.
Both in our policy on Ukraine and in our policy on North Korea. And it's a very good example of what you talked about.
Guys, we need to give up Ukraine. We can't risk angering North Korea. Guys, we need to step carefully, okay? Guys, Kim Jong-un is doing something he's never done before, okay? He's threatening South Korea, America, and Japan with missiles.
About Crystal, the Biden brain of reversion, back to the 1990s, right.
Yeah.
Where we think that we have chips, which are long gone off of the table.
That's exactly right.
We have no chips. Crystal, you're really eating all this up, huh? That's right. America has no more cards to play on the international stage.
He still thinks he's living in a world where we are the sole superpower. We can do whatever the hell we want, and no one can do a goddamn thing about it.
What is this in reference to? What are we doing that is indicative of our arrogance? Not to say that we're not arrogant. I'm just asking, what specific behavior are we engaging in here? North Korea did an alliance with Russia because Russia wanted it, because Russia needs more shells, because it's stalled in Ukraine for like 2.5 years now. What does that have to do with us? It's arrogant of us provide Ukraine. It was like bad of us to do that because the other side was doing that too? I don't understand this at all.
And because of that, I mean, the direct thing that Putin points to in going forward with this pact, and there had already been a lot of cooperation, weapon sales, etc.
I understand that I'm doing kind of like the shouty debate man thing here, but like people need to understand that like nothing is being said here, you know? I know that there's probably some dumb YouTube chat right now who's thinking like, oh, wow, American exceptionalist Vosh once again touting the hegemonic world order of the West. And like, how? Like, it genuinely, what is this? I don't understand what any of this means. It's just factually incorrect statements being thrown out there in rapid succession. It's crazy.
Between North Korea and Russia in the context of the Ukrainian war. The specific thing he pointed to was the fact that we said, hey, Ukraine, go ahead and use our weapons and our, to hit targets within Russia. So that very immediate, discrete decision. But above and beyond that, I mean, think of too, how we threw everything in our sanctions playbook against Russia. And that's the other thing that Russia and North Korea talked about here is part of the cooperation is an attempt to undercut and further short circuit our sanctions regime.
That's true. That's what I'm thinking, One thing that can definitely compensate for being cut off from the entire Western world economically, trading with North Korea. That is very true, much in the same way that like if I get banned from the one and only grocery store in my town, I can always trade for like cashews that a homeless man has found in bird nests in the local park. That is true. Your ban means nothing to me, Vons. Safeway.
I mean, Russia has already demonstrated that those sanctions, we just don't have the bite. We just don't have the power and the might to extract that economic cost and wage that economic war. That
we don't. We do. Russia's suffered massively under the sanctions. That's why that's why they're so angry about them. What do you mean? What do you mean? What is it with the obsession with people? Like there are people who believe, perhaps correctly, that America should not be like, the #1 world power. Okay. But then they take a totally irrational step into cuckoo land by saying, actually, America is already weak. It just hasn't realized it yet, and apparently neither has the rest of the world. What do you mean by that? You can admit that America is very strong and influential. That doesn't take away from your point about the hegemony. In fact, it adds to it. How can you simultaneously believe that America is both weak and strong? Oh.
We once did as well. So, we're already coming into a world of multipolarity by our actions in Ukraine. I think also with regard to Israel and the way, most of the world has been oppositional to that. Even going back to our actions with regard to the Iraq war, we have helped to accelerate a shift away from us. We have helped to consolidate a bloc that is directly opposed and adversarial to us. And none of
What about the Cold War? Like, that would have been a pretty clear example of multipolarity. After the fall of the Soviet Union, kind of not really. I mean, I guess, like, China is the major oppositional force there, but even then we trade so extensively. It's not like it's the Soviet Union and America again, you know? Like, it's not the first and second world going at each other anymore. We're pretty economically intertwined. Like, I don't really know. I don't know if multipolarity is when the two, like, powerhouses team up. North Korea and Russia, the country that stalled 100 miles from their own border for 2.5 years against a country that didn't even have a military a decade ago, you know? Like, come on, how can you still be pushing the multipolarity crap? Russia couldn't, like, during the Gulf War, we executed like a flawless decapitation of a massive military in basically no time at all from across the other side of the world. Meanwhile, Russia has been running into logistics issues 5 feet outside of their territory. Come on.
None of this was necessary. It didn't have to happen and was not inevitable that we end up in this direction. This is all directly because of decisions that were made in this administration and others besides, by the way, going back a lot of...
What decision made during the Biden administration would have prevented Russia from invading Ukraine exactly? Out of curiosity?
years, and the way that we've acted with complete arrogance and disregard for any other actors and any other perspectives, and in this very warlike manner as well.
What is this insane centrist garbage? Well, actually, this is a really clear indication of the synchronicity between campism from the left and like fascist pseudo-isolationism from the right, where Crystal and Saagar are both echoing the exact same points, even though they're coming at it from different perspectives, right? Like from Saagar's perspective, it's like, look at glorious Trump, who is willing to deal with his neighbors, and Biden won't, and that's why like glorious masculine North Korea and Russia are teaming up to oppose the degenerate Western order. And on the other hand, you have Crystal, who probably genuinely thinks that like we should have not offered an eventual, we should have like declined to ever let Ukraine into NATO on Russia's say so. But they're saying the same things anyway. Horseshoe theory, kind of.
Around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's put the next part up because this is a perfect example. Putin, not that long ago, was a direct participant in U.S. efforts to quote-unquote denuclearize or at least halt nuclear weapons production in North Korea, and to be clear, also in Iran, which is currently seeing signs of nuclear enrichment. Guess what Putin is now doing? Putin says, I don't care about literally any of that. In fact,
no shit, because he's desperate for ammunition. That's a sign of desperation. You mean he previously pursued a foreign policy goal, but now he's walking it back because he really, really, really wants what that nation has? That's just desperation. Guess who ruined the Iran deal too, not Russia? Yeah, well.
I'll probably help you if you want to. As you see in front of you, Putin once tried to curb North Korea's nuclear program. That is now over with the signing of this mutual assistance pact. He's similarly helping Iranians build production facilities of their drones on Russian soil, which are then being used inside of Ukraine. It's a great deal for Iran. They get money. They get to see how their weapons perform against sophisticated Western technology. Win-win. Same here for the North Koreans. They're like, it's just a battleground, testing ground for them. They're like, sure, take as much ammunition as you want. They've got literal slave labor that can crank it out. All of this could have been prevented, but
how? Genuine question, what could Biden have done to have broken the bonds between Russia, Iran, and North Korea? By letting Russia take Ukraine, obviously. I mean, yeah, that probably is the position he holds. Just it's nonsensical, and like he should state it openly if that's the case. Like he could have prevented all of this by just instantly losing or whatever. Like what could he have done? I agree that America should normalize relations with Iran, but if that's what you're saying, then say it. Say that like Biden should have normalized relations with Iran, but that kind of contradicts your earlier statements about how President Donald Trump would have fixed everything because he worsened relations with Iran enormously while he was in office and continues to employ rhetoric to that effect.
We are just slowly pushing these countries together, and we are underestimating the sheer power that they now represent.
Because leaving the nuclear accord with Iran and murking Soleimani was probably the biggest event in the past, like, since 9/11, man. The biggest event that pushed Iran further away from us. You know, like burning an already burnt bridge.
We are not living in 1991 anymore, where we can just do whatever we want and with relatively no consequences. These are powerful nations, and you know, watching this happen should
These are powerful nations, and he's talking about North fucking Korea.
Humbling in Ukraine, but instead things are actually flipping the opposite. Every single day things actually get worse in terms of dragging us more and more into this war. For example, let's put this up there. What do we see from CNN? The US and the UK and NATO allies are actively debating terms for Ukraine ahead of the summit. US wants to communicate to say that Ukraine has a bridge to NATO membership. The UK and others want to say that Ukraine's path is irreversible.
Okay, what's the issue?
So the divide today is the language over Ukraine eventually getting into NATO,
not whether or not they should get into NATO. The offer has been open for them to be a part of NATO for decades. That's not new. They just can't have an active, ongoing, like, land dispute. They need to have secure control of their territory. This is already known.
Not anybody saying, yeah, maybe you're never going to get into NATO. Literally ever. Yeah, sure, maybe we'll help you out if we want to.
So how is this a coherent argument at all? The West is getting further dragged into the conflict because members of the West aren't just ceding to Russia's position on whether Ukraine should be a part of NATO. That's a complete non sequitur. I thought he was going to talk about, like, I don't know, Macron arguing that we should put boots on the ground in Ukraine or whatever. But instead he's like, actually, it's a sign of our weakness that we are standing firm by our convictions. How does that make any sense? Just say you want Russia to take Ukraine. Don't like genuinely, just say that. You can defend that position, man. I agree, Minimar.
You actually conduct yourself in a good manner, but this is the contours of the debate. And then just this morning, I wake up to this insane news that the U.S. is currently halting all open orders of Patriot air defense systems and interceptors for all allies deliveries to countries that are actually important to us until, quote, Ukraine has enough to defend itself from Russia's air attacks, which means...
Oh, okay. Yeah, the country that's currently using them gets them first. How does that make it... Does that not make obvious sense? Do we think that, like, Germany is in immediate need of these? Well, yeah, maybe they should go to the country currently using them, obviously. Yeah, we're like a fire extinguisher company, and we've decided that we're going to direct our production towards the building that's currently on fire rather than evenly distributing them at all points to... Okay.
Basically means the entire U.S. industrial, like, military complex is working on behalf of freaking Ukraine right now.
No. That is not what that means in the slightest. The military-industrial complex is doing exactly what it has always done, which is producing new weapons, fulfilling orders for new weapons, and making a fuck ton of money. That's been happening for, like, about a century now, or at least since the end of World War II. The engine has continued to churn. That is not changing in any way, shape, or form. We're only directing the orders towards the person who needs them most? How does that mean we're working for Ukraine? It's insane, dude! What am I supposed to say to crap like this? Do debates? What? So, like, it's like this, but 3 times as long, and I have to shout over him to get him to admit that his positions are nonsensical? Jesus Christ! I guess I am doing a Breaking Points debate sometime soon.
Now, abandoning Taiwan or any of these other countries.
Abandoning? Wait, hold on. Do you want us to defend Taiwan, or are you... I don't know what his position is on that.
Genuinely important to the U.S. economy. This is like, we are just watching, like, the whole U.S. policy is revolving here around Ukraine for no discernible reason, Chris.
There's an ongoing war. That's the reason. In the other countries we're allied with, there's not a war. But in Ukraine, there is a war. So it's kind of like pressing, you know? There's like an active conflict. Is he actually this stupid? Who knows, man? No one believes anything anymore. I'm the only person in the political space who... I shouldn't say that. There are lots of great people on the left, but nobody on the right. Like, none of them believe... They're just saying shit, man. You're just yapping.
And watching it happen is honestly terrifying, especially in the North Korean context. I mean, if they develop, what, 20, 50 some nuclear weapons, that's going to put them on the par with...
Are you kidding me? Yeah, man, if North Korea develops like a orbital space laser, that would also be pretty bad for us. Is this a... Come on, man. Are you real? This is embarrassing. This is like the shit conservatives did where they, before the Ukraine war, where they were like, America's woke military would lose instantly against the VDV or whatever else, you know, the Russian paratroopers. And then Russia stalls and loses 50 billion men 1 foot from their border in Ukraine. And then it's like, oh, actually, North Korea is the real threat. What are you talking about, dude?
Some of the other great nuclear powers like Pakistan and India, and they're directly...
Yeah, the 3 equally posed nations, you know? India, Pakistan, and North Korea. Just peers in every fashion, you know? Same GDP, population, trade access, just income equality.
An ally with China and with Russia, with Iran, presumably, when just 5-10 years ago, we easily had them on our side under the Trump administration.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did I just stroke out? Did he just say North Korea was our ally during...
Directly an ally with China and with Russia, with Iran, presumably, when just with some of the other great nuclear powers like Pakistan and India, and they're directly an ally with China and with Russia, with Iran, presumably, when just 5-10 years ago, we easily had them on our side under the Trump administration.
Yeah, he's talking about North Korea now. He is. That's the verbiage indicates he is referring to North Korea. We easily had them on our side. Or is he implying that Pakistan is currently an enemy of ours or something? What? Is he lost his mind? Yeah, like, again, man, like, Theta, I know I'm beating this dead creature that has no mimetic relevance to the stream, but, like, how the do you talk about this shit? How do you debate? How do you talk with anyone when people say shit this ridiculous? Crystal, you're just gonna let this slide?
And it was thrown away for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, we've created over the course of a number of years a landscape in which the incentives for smaller countries are all in the direction of obtaining nuclear weapons. Because, I mean, Ukraine probably wishes they still held on to their nuclear weapons as well. That is the direction that the motivation is all in, and Libya being the primary example of why that is ultimately the case. But I mean, with regards to Ukraine, again...
Yeah, North Korea's been pursuing nukes for ages. Everyone is. What is that? You're really gonna let him get away with saying that 5-10 years ago we were on good terms with North Korea? Come on. Really? Dude, I can't do this. How do I respond to shit like this?
The original policy, which there was a big difference between how Barack Obama viewed how our relationship with Ukraine would be. He was actually much more sort of dovish, unwilling to do some of the things that Trump did in terms of weapon shipments and training for Ukraine. But Biden is locked into this ossified, old, cold...
Wait, Obama sanctioned Russia after the annexation of Crimea. Wait, Obama imposed sanctions in 2014 against Russia. What is being said here, dude? I don't even know how to argue again. What do you mean? The war in Ukraine wasn't around under Trump or Obama, so we don't have a direct comparison for their behavior.
War, arrogant mentality. And so
for giving weapons to Ukraine, I don't understand.
The thinking was basically to use Russia's invasion as a pretext to, you know, re-up the Cold War.
How is that? It's always us. It's crazy. Dude, America does so much up stuff and you still have to like juggle reality in order to construct the situation in which Putin saying that he wants to reclaim the borders of the Russian Empire and then invading a former Soviet territory is America starting the Cold War. What are you talking about? It's insane. It's genuinely psychotic. It's ill. It's mental illness. It's sick. It's sickness. They're sick. It's crazy. Like we do a million bad things a second. Can't we talk about that?
and use them as the Ukrainians as our plaything and engage in this proxy war under the...
That's not what he was saying. He said India and Pakistan were allies 10 years ago. His verbiage implied strongly he was referring to North Korea, which is a statement that he was also making earlier. But now they're closer to China and Russia and North Korea, which is dumb as because China and India are literally fighting right now and China's a full advantage. Yeah, and Pakistan's our ally. Like the position is objectively incorrect no matter what, but like I'm pretty sure he was referring to North Korea. Even if he wasn't, he was referring to India and Pakistan. Pakistan is our ally. Like India is not in alliance with China. It's no, whatever. I don't know. How like we're parsing two distinct flavors of being completely cuckoo, right? I don't know. I can't logic this out.
Arrogant assumption that we could actually foment some sort of regime change in Russia, that we could topple that regime and make it more compliant so that they just did, whatever we wanted them to do whenever we wanted them to.
I'm sorry, what?
That we could actually foment some sort of regime change in Russia, that we could topple that regime and make it more compliant so that they...
You mean the literal exact thing Russia tried to do in Ukraine, where they had Yanukovych, the Russian-backed corrupt oligarch, who shifted his country away from the EU at the behest of his Russian masters, then fled the country when the public revolted against him?
Just did, whatever we wanted them to do whenever we wanted them to do it. Now that the foolishness of that has been ultimately revealed, there is no other plan. There is no other plan. The plan is just to muddle through, hope to get through Election Day, sacrifice a lot more Ukrainians.
This is like genuinely, this shit is like so arrogant. You claim that Biden is arrogant and like chauvinistic and an American hegemony touting or whatever, and then you're like, oh yeah, the Ukrainian people would have much preferred to have just been bowled over by Russia. That's definitely a position that is like evidenced in reality based on extremely available polling data on Ukraine and on Zelensky's popularity, Yeah, man, the poor Ukrainians, if all, they all wanted to stop fighting and lose instantly, but, it was the Americans who forced them to fight by giving them extremely powerful weapons, which they begged us for years before we gave it to them. Yeah, man. It's so arrogant, like no agency ever given to the Ukrainian people.
And worsen their position vis-a-vis any potential future settlement. And it's just foolishness after foolishness with no willingness to, change course, no willingness to readjust, because Biden rightly perceives that to do so at this point, after you said, we're not going to allow them to give up an inch of territory, would be to admit defeat. And it would be a political...
I mean, it wouldn't be just a political defeat. It would be a literal defeat, because then Ukraine would lose the war, a thing that has consequences for the lives of millions of people. Like it's not just a political defeat. Like it's a war. There's a war happening. The defeat would be literal.
Problem, especially the way that the media covers these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're just, that's how you get locked into these forever wars, that and all the money that there is to be made off of warlike behavior.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe Russia shouldn't have invaded. I don't know what to say, man. Oh, I hate war, and not a word of criticism to Russia. Isn't that crazy? 11 minutes, 38 seconds, and not a single negative thing said about Russia. Like, not even an offhanded, maybe they shouldn't have invaded. Because, that's an inevitability. How could the universe conspire to bring those events to bear? Only America is responsible for this by providing weapons to the nation being invaded.
It's very...
This is all Mir Shemur rhetoric, yeah. And Mir Shemur is a hack, and this is, as far as I'm concerned, all fascism. It is, I'm sorry. It is all fascism. From Saagar, this is obvious. Crystal is doing the classic, lefty bit of, through campism, we will enable it. We will defend a fascist world order as long as it's, framed. It's the idiosyncratic method of delivering fascism, rhetorically, where it used to be that fascists were very overt, right? Like a person like Saagar would talk about the need for a one world order under a given race or nationality or whatever, or they would talk about the greater strength of the Russian people and how the blood of the Russian people is greater than that of the Ukrainian people. But now you can't say that because of woke media or whatever. So he has to go through jumping through these hoops to go okay, so allow me to defend fascist land conquests, blood and soil rhetoric without explicitly defending it. And you go through all this pseudo isolationist pacifist rhetoric that just happens to coincide perfectly with the interests and geopolitical incentives of a fascist regime.
All of this is just slow moving, and it's like these things just happen and we move past. Oh, Biden gives permission to Ukraine to hit Russian territory. They're like, but don't hit Moscow, okay? Just not Moscow, but everywhere else is fine. And now we're halting all production, just making sure that it's going to Ukraine. And now,
that's not halting all. What are you talking? What are you saying? That's not halting all production. That's diverting existing production. What are you talking about?
Actually stealing $50 billion from Russian assets and breaking the integrity of the global financial system just to give money to bankrupt Ukraine.
Damn, well, Russia probably shouldn't have trampled on the integrity of the international order by baselessly invading a neighboring nation. I don't know what to tell you, man. Yoink. Yoink. I don't know, man. Seems like a skill issue to me.
To protect democracy in a country which literally just canceled elections. How does that work exactly?
See? With the fascist rhetoric, bro, they're in wartime. It's pretty common for nations to like cancel elections when they're literally like fighting for the land. That's pretty common, you know? Captains don't normally have their captaincy voted on when they're being boarded. Let's change government during a war. Yeah, exactly. It's like every criticism except for Russia having done the actual invasion. It's crazy, man. And then they're like, did you know Zelensky banned opposing political parties? And then you look at the opposing political parties and they're explicitly pro-Russian and directly linked to Russian influencers' access. Like, like, no shit. Damn, that's crazy.
What? Sorry? Oh, also this, we have to protect human rights of Ukrainian civilians. Let's forget about Israel and Gaza. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a fair point to me. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean you should stop with Ukraine, but I mean, if anything, that seems like a counter argument that I would make to you, Saagar, that you pretend to care about what's going on with the Palestinians, but then you don't care when the Russians invade. You're just doing the opposite of that argument. You're doing the same thing from the other perspective.
Obviously, exactly. People in the rest of the world, in the global south, Asia or whatever, they're like, what are you people doing? You people are idiots. We don't believe a word that you say. And then what was that, China? You want to give me some money? Okay, sure. Let me I'll take the meeting at least.
Wait, what is he referencing here?
I'll take the meeting. That is basically the road to where we are right now. And look, you know, maybe it'll happen tomorrow. It could happen.
I don't even know what that was in reference to. I don't understand what he's yapping about.
In a decade, but at the very least, we are setting things up in a way which is not good for us.
Yeah,
not good.
I think there's no doubt about that.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like.
Well, that was insane. Just glad to remember that, you know, glad to be reminded of the quality of the discourse. That's fantastic. I did not like that video. I'm giving it a thumbs down, yeah. And then naturally, like, the comment section is an incoherent jumble of, like, Fox News comment tier bullshit. Like that doesn't even have anything to do with the video itself. You gonna debate Breaking Points? I'm debating somebody on Breaking Points about Ukraine. It's hosted by Ryan Grimm. I'm not debating these two. I yeah that video very much, yeah. Yeah. True. Well, that was some nice brain damage. You're going on counterpoints, not breaking points? How do you know? Because that's Ryan Grimm's show? Oh. Well, thanks for clarifying.